Hey everybody, Andy Brady here again on the Easily Amused channel, and many of you have been following long enough to have seen the enclosure for my 3 printers, the enclosure tent with heater for all of my filament, but I've decided it's finally time to make the upgrade, and I have gotten the AMS hub and another AMS. And I will be unboxing this and figuring out how to set it up back here so that we can start printing 8 filament colors instead of 4, and let's see how that process goes. Definitely pleasantly surprised that the bamboo came with its own spools inside the machine. I did not know that the extra AMS would come with that on shipment. They still will not replace, shameless plug, the spool adapter that I have designed so that you can fit your 250 mil spools into your hub. Print them just fine with no issues. But it is nice that they came in there. I do still have the 2 that came with my original AMS. They're still unused to this day, but I know a lot of you guys out there will still be using these. I will not. With that being said, there is no room on top for another AMS, and I'm still sticking with my ender, still not getting rid of it. I like my 0.08 millimeter nozzle, and I don't want to get rid of that. But what I did do is I did stop using the spool adapters that I've got up here. I did stop using the one above the MK3 Plus, simply because it can hold the 2 of them on top of the machine without running into the roof. Whereas, if y'all remember my original video, the Ender 3 V2, especially with the risers and the racquetball feet, there was no way for me to fit the spool in here easily, so I did put the box on top that would keep it sealed in, keep the temperature in, keep it draft free. It's still sealed, still heated, still contained in there. So I'm actually going to be removing all of this, and I will be putting the AMS here and the other one over here and sealing over that hole. That was not a mistake, but now I wish I hadn't done it back whenever I did it. So we'll see how that looks. Real quickly, want to add this in there for everyone who did watch part 1 where we built the enclosure, and part 2 a year later going into it. Something I just now discovered with the bamboo, it clearly vibrates so much. If you watch the videos, you know that I took the front door off just because with the enclosure it was unnecessary to have the top or the front door. It also did block the light from the light strips that I do have in here. But I had the door leaning up against the side of the bamboo. And crazy enough, there is actually a line across the bamboo where the vibrating of the machine up against the metal part of the door leaning up against it has actually left a gouge in the side of the machine with some, some black oily kind of residue that probably came off of the bits of the door. But just throws that out there of why I built this on such a big, strong, medium, because clearly it vibrates a lot more than I would have ever even thought it did. So let's get back to it. Okay, by far the absolute worst design here is the pin release, and the fact that when you have it plugged in, you can't get to the pin release because it is up against the machine. So thankfully I had a tool with a curved end. I know people 3D print things to use for their machine, but you know, it felt like whenever I got the Ender 3 V2, it's like a rite of passage. The first 100 things that you print are all things for the Ender 3 V2. Yet I feel like the only thing that I've ever really printed for the Bamboo was the poop bucket, the outhouse, whatever you want to call it. But now I'm kind of wishing that I had printed some of the release for the PTFE tubes and the release for pulling these pins out. I have a full workshop down here, so it wasn't that difficult. But before you disconnect all this, if you're planning on doing this, might be a good idea to do. Now, the original 2 screws that were holding this piece in are not long enough to hold the AMS hub in. It does come with 2 screws that you put in on your own. I did not tighten that all the way down just in case I need to remove it again, which there's a good chance of. And then what you do is you actually daisy chain the machines. The AMS hub that I got did not come with instructions. The AMS came with instructions, but the hub did not. But it was pretty easy, pretty straightforward to figure out. I'll be plugging one machine into the other machine, so you'll have machine number 1 and machine number 2, with machine number 1 leading to machine number 2 and back around to the machine. So let me get all that in there and let's see how this works out. All right, so one advantage for me is that I do have some spare PTFE tubing, but they do include a pretty long one, so hopefully I'm actually going to be able to, instead of having it recessed back, I'll be able to pull them forward because I'm going to have all this new space up here anyway. One of the first things that you have to do is the short piece of tubing that comes in the machine already, whether it's your unit that you already have or it is reach. There we go. You have to remove this from both of them. I just used a piece of pair of pliers and went down on both sides, but they do make removing tools that you can 3D print. I'm not going to waste the plastic when I've got this. So now that I've got one of them removed, I need to pull the spools out of that one, get it removed off that one, get it chained up, and let's see how we get this going. Very pleased to tell you that while I made the complaint about the pin release being up against the machine, so it's very difficult to release the hub, I'm just now realizing as I plugged in the AMS into the hub, actually has turned it around. So the pins are actually exposed on the outside, so it's very easy to put them in and out now using the hub. But the AMS that just shipped still has it facing I would say the wrong way, the way that's the least convenient. So even the one that I just now got matches the original one that I got well over a year ago, where it'll put the pin release in a very unfortunate position, whereas the AMS hub has corrected it and it's got it on the other side. So very good news, and hopefully they'll replace that one going forward for everyone. All right, so in the amount of time that it took my Prusa MK3 Plus to print one diffuser cap for the end of my Arkfeld Pro flashlight, which is not really saying a whole lot because it's not a very fast printer, I was able to get the original AMS hub removed, the 2 put in its place. Both of them have PTFE tubing going down through the hole. One of them goes straight to the hub. One of them connects the AMS number 1 to AMS number 2. I just turned the machine back on, but I'll show you guys what it looks like back here, which is a bit of a mess. We got the tubes coming down. The first one goes in the top, second one goes in the bottom. As I said, the pins are now on the outside, much easier for getting to if you need to remove this again in the future. I went ahead and tightened down those screws because there was nothing more that I needed. And then while I'm in here, that's a scratch from those glass doors I was talking about. Kind of crazy. So I just turned it back on and detected that the lead screws may need lubrication. Would you like to go blah, 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 blah? No. Let's see if it automatically recognizes that there is more than one AMS. And it sure does. There's an AMS 1 and an AMS 2. So let's go see what that looks like on the computer, and let's try our first print. Now let's get down to brass tacks. The real reason that I did this is to print a Hecuba, the gnome. Let's see how that turns out. My very first 7-color print. I lied. It's 8 colors. I get to use all 8 colors. All right, for anyone who does not have an AMS and is wondering what all the buzz is about, let me just give you a real quick example, right? So this is my very first 8-color print, and this spool right here, I teared out an empty spare, an empty spool, I weighed it, I made sure that I had enough for what I was printing, and it ended up being exactly one line, one layer too short. And so I was able to open up the Bamboo Lab slicer and check to see when it would change to the next color, and it was one layer. So I went ahead and I took the red out from here, moved it over here, let it pretend that it was the same tan color. It started printing the red one line earlier, which does not look any different whatsoever. No one would ever even know. But here's even the other part. The white that I was using, I ran out of that as well with only a couple lines worth to be printed. So I changed it out to the silver, and you'll see that it was not, it's definitely noticeable, but if you didn't know that it wasn't supposed to be silver, it was actually okay. Just because I ran out of the white and I ran out of the tan, but I was able to just switch them around, make it work. So I switched the red to here, and when it was done, it immediately said, hey, the red's out. So I moved the red back over to here, told it to continue, and now it's back to finishing printing what it is I'm printing, which as soon as it's done, I'll show you guys that, and we should be done. All right, there you have it. 5 little Hecuba gnome prints from the show Bluey. Definitely going to make my kids happy. It was the very first one that I wanted to print because I've been wanting to print it for a while, but 8 colors. I made them all very, very, very small. They're normally, I think this is scaled about 40%, just because I did not have enough tan. But like I was telling you guys, I actually had to start printing the tan one layer early, the red one layer early, and then you can see the eyes. They're actually not supposed to have any gray at the top of them, but you know, I wasn't going to wait a couple days for more filament to come in from Amazon, and so I switched it over to the gray, and it looks pretty natural, and the red being one layer early is not an issue at all. All right, so that is it. Y'all saw it was extremely quick, extremely easy. It is not inexpensive to do, but having all the extra colors is absolutely fantastic. And as you guys just heard, with all the issues that I had having to switch stuff back and forth, that's not something that I could really successfully do with my Prusa. Definitely not something I could do with my Ender. It is very nice, and you know, it is also very nice to be able to run out of colors. I used to always have a ton of extra spools that only had, you know, I don't know, 25 feet, you know, left on it total. And it used to be a big thing on 3D printing sites, like, what do you do with your last 20 feet of filament? Well, with this printer, it's definitely not a reason to buy one of these hubs. I have quite often, you know, this dark brown right here. I print a lot of things in this chocolate brown. There have been times that I've had 1/3 of a spool, 1/4 of a spool, 1/8 of a spool, full spool, and printed something and it emptied all the way to the end, which lets me get every last little bit of it out. So even though the Bamboo does have the outhouse, the bucket on the back that does collect all that extra stuff, and there is some waste there, when you're able to save those little bits of filament, get that last little bit out of that last little bit of spool, you know, it ends up saving sometimes in the long run. And then just one last thing, you'll notice every single one of my spools are cardboard. They've actually added to the Bamboo software, Overture Matte PLA, which is my favorite thing to print, is the Overture PLA, especially the Matte PLA. I just think it has a fantastic look to it without it shining. I'm gonna put a link to a lot of these products in there. Just fantastic. And even though the AMS does recommend against cardboard spools because it could do some slipping, you got other people saying that the cardboard dust could build up inside of it. I've been printing with this one for well over a year. It pretty much has never stopped, and I've pretty much only ever printed with the cardboard spools. I did start off with the little snap rings that go around the outer edges, but it didn't take long for me to get lazy and tired of using those, and ever since then I've been printing nonstop with cardboard, and it's been working. Hopefully, if you decide to start doing the same thing, you don't come back and blame me if something goes wrong. But I can let you know, after hundreds and hundreds of hours of printing, hundreds and hundreds of hours of printing, no issues from me. I'm going to link below on this. It is such a good color. It is such a good, nice matte finish. There is no glare. It definitely just ends up looking really good. So thank you guys for watching, and if you plan on getting an AMS for the first time or end up getting a second one, let me know in the comments below. What would you guys like to see me do next? What do you think I'm missing from my Bamboo? I told you guys I really haven't printed anything for it. What am I missing out on? What are the prints that I should be printing for this device? And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.